In this lesson, we'll create some details for our drawing set. Alright, so let's go ahead and add a new page. And we're going to go ahead and drop this in, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this one. So I'm going to call this one S1 colon structural plans. And this will have a little bit of the building core, the foundation, and I also want to show off, some of the details and show you how you can go about doing that. So I'll hit enter here. We'll stay on our page. So now what I do want to do is I want to jump back to our model here. And I'm going to go ahead and save this as something a little bit different so it doesn't affect our other page here. So I'm going to go ahead and say File, Save As, and I'm just going to say Structural Plans, and Save. And we're going to be in business here, so we can go ahead and start creating these views. So I'm going to get rid of these here as well. So we could go into the model and actually, play around with the views, or we can create scenes. I'm going to go ahead and create some scenes. So first thing I want to do is, we've already kind of showed off the building exterior, so at this point, we can go ahead and hide the exterior. So I'm going to select it, right click, go to hide, and I really just want to show off this structure here. So this will actually be one of our first views here. So again, you can tell I'm not in perspective, so I'm going to go to Camera, Perspective. Gives me a much nicer view of my building. So I want to be able to see pretty much all my building elements, my core, my foundation, my beams, and my lateral bracing. So, when it comes to structure, this view might actually be the best view for us. And I can move this element here, is going to be in our way. So I'm going to go to Move, and I'm just going to slide it on over. Alright, so we'll create a nice little view with this here. So this will be a first glimpse of our structure. And I'm going to create a scene from this view. I can just hide this guy. This just wants to be in the view. There we go. Alright. So now, I'm going to kind of center this a little bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and do Windows, Scene, plus Create Scene. And I'm going to call this, it's an overall structure. There's one scene. So then maybe you want to come in here and take a look at the details I've put in place. So I've placed those in a certain area. So let's go see if we can't find those connections. There we go. So I want to get, let's say we wanted to add some structural details, some connection details to a page. Well, we can do that with scenes. And I'll show you how that works. And we'll also be able to play with some dimensions. So I'm going to kind of scroll up here till we get a good view of this. And it might actually be better to kind of look out. That way we're not distracted by other elements within our model. But I can now show you, create a nice scene from this view here. So we'll go back to Windows, Scenes, plus Create Scene. And I'm going to go ahead and call this, this will be our connection. We'll say, it's just a connection detail, just to keep it kind of simple. This will be typical as well. Perfect. So we have that scene in place. Let's say we want one for our lateral bracing. I might want a few of these to show, one, the overall lateral bracing, but then I may want to show how it's connected. So I'm going to do this kind of looking out as well. I'm just going to right click and hide this guy. He keeps popping up. So again, I'm trying to get an overall view of my lateral bracing. So I'm going to get in there as close as I can. I can scroll in better by actually putting my mouse over an element and then scrolling. But I want to be able to see the bottom of my slab there. Perfect. So we'll actually have this in there, and I'm going to create a scene from this, and we'll go back here. And again, you've got to remember, these are all conceptual details, so they're not something you're actually going to build off of. This is all in the conceptual phase, right before we get into design development and construction drawing phase, or construction document phase. So again, Windows, Scene, plus create scene, and I'm going to call this one lateral bracing. Enter. And then I may want to have a typical connection here at the top. Again, window, we'll say scene here, and I'm going to say plus create scene. I'm going to say lateral bracing connection. Hit enter. Actually, we might want to call that top, so we'll say top. Perfect. And I'm going to do one for the bottom to show how far off the ground this bottom gusset plate is actually going to be. Perfect. So then this one, I'll create another one. So we'll say window, scene, plus create scene, lateral bracing connection, bottom. I'll hit enter for it to accept. Now we have plenty of views here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this. So we'll say file, save, and then in the next lesson we'll bring these into our sheet, and then we'll create a nice little detail sheet with a bunch of details for our concept. So I'll meet you in the next lesson where we'll jump back in the layout and put our details in the sheets.